My House of Horrors Chapter 291-300. I missed the only chance I had to save her. The old man lowered his head, and his words were filled with guilt and guilt. After a long time, he continued, 1 month later, I returned to see if the girl had been found. I knocked for a long time, but no one answered. I walked to the side and saw that the glass on the window had been broken. When I looked through the window, I saw the girl's mother lying by the window. One of her hands was still on the edge of the window. She seemed to be trying to get out, but the room was built like a prison. The window was very narrow, and there was no way out. I found the farming tools and used them to break the lock on the wooden door. The door that the girl's father had built was very sturdy, and it took me a few minutes to break it open. There was a light stench inside the room. The table and chairs were toppled, and the food was scattered all over the floor. The girl's father was lying at the door, and the other side of the door was covered in deep scratches. He must be in pain. I called the police and the ambulance. When I was about to return to the village to call for help, the door of the other wooden house suddenly opened. The second daughter of the Zhu family, the well-behaved and sensible little fellow, came out of the house. When I saw the key in her pocket, I suddenly realized that the door was locked from the outside. Almost no outsiders would come into this ravine, and the villagers avoided the couple. They wouldn't come here to poison them for no reason and then lock them inside the house. In that situation, the only culprit that I could think of was the youngest daughter of the Zhu family. When I looked at the little girl, I suddenly felt like she was a stranger. I was even a little scared. Until now, I still don't understand why the little girl would do that. She might have done it for her sister, or she might have seen her own future from what happened to her sister. After all, the little girl also had a slight abnormality on her body, but it was not obvious. Maybe she's protecting herself. What happened next was even scarier. When the girl saw me, she was not afraid or panicked. She walked over like normal. She raised her delicate face, looking like an obedient child, but the words that came out of her mouth sent a chill down my spine. It was a very calm tone, without any emotion. She told me that her sister was buried in the peach forest a few weeks ago, and she hoped that I could help her find her sister. I really wanted to tell her that once a person is buried in the ground, it means death. I tried to explain the meaning of death to her, but she laughed happily. She told me that people would turn into something else after death, and that her sister had never left. Quote. The old man gripped his hand tightly. Thinking back to the situation at the time, cold sweat still broke out on his forehead. I didn't know how to communicate with the child, so I ran back to the village alone. I called a few young men to stand guard around the peach forest and waited for the police to arrive. What followed was a long investigation. I told the police that there might be another body buried in the peach forest, but the police did not find Zhu Xinru there. They tried to use the little girl as a breakthrough point, but the girl refused to communicate with anyone. It was as if she had suddenly become mute. Out of guilt toward Zhu Xinru, I did not accuse her sister. From how I saw it, the couple did not deserve to be their parents. There was some bitterness in the old man's voice. That couple often beat up their own children. When the refugees from Coffin village wanted to execute Zhu Xinru, not only did they not stop them, they even acquiesced. If it weren't for the fact that our Bai family village couldn't stand it anymore, that inhumane tragedy might have happened. Other than the little girl, the biggest suspect should be you, right? Did the police tell you anything? Chen Ge's expression was calm. This case was similar to what he expected. I hid some things about the little girl, but the police are not that easy to fool. They followed the clues and found out many things. One of the officers with the surname Yan seemed to know the truth, but he did not expose it. The old man looked at the coffin and thought back to what had happened. He was not interested in the poisoning case. Instead, he asked me many questions about Coffin village. After taking many statements, I was released. The little girl was taken away by the police, and I moved to the county to stay with my son. However, for some reason, every night, I would hear Zhu Xinru's voice. She kept screaming, "Save me, save me." I asked my son and daughter-in-law, but they did not hear anything. The two adults were fine, but Xiao's son, who had just started kindergarten, would often point under the bed and the cupboard and scream, "Spider! Spider!" Single quote. My son and daughter-in-law searched the whole house, but they could not find any spider. I thought this might have something to do with Zhu Xinru, so I rented the peach forest and moved into the wooden hut, hoping to find Zhu Xinru's body. I'm old, and I don't know how many years I have left. Now, I only have two wishes. One is for my children to be safe, and the other is to find Zhu Xinru. The old man held the black shirt in his hands and stood next to the coffin. He had prepared everything. His voice lowered like he was talking to himself. Whether we find her or not, this coffin will come in handy. Sir, don't be so pessimistic. Now that we know the exact location of the body, we can call the police tomorrow to find Zhu Xinru's body. Digging up a body would ruin the crime scene and damage the body, so it was best to hand it over to the police. It's not a problem to hand it over to the police, but I want to confirm it first. When the case first happened, I told the police that there was a body hidden in the peach forest, but they did not find it. I'm afraid that there will be another accident. The old man picked up the hoe and the lamp. That's fine. The rain outside had lightened. Chen Ge carried his backpack and entered the peach forest with the old man. They found the peach tree at the center of the forest. They dug around the tree for a long time, but they did not find Zhu Xinru's body. That shouldn't be. Chen Ge believed that Zhu Xinru had no reason to lie to him. After all, everything he did was for her sake. Sigh, looks like it's not here. The old man's tone was heavy with disappointment. Wait a minute. Chen Ge looked at the withered leaves of the peach tree. He took out the hammer from his backpack and smashed it on the tree trunk. The peach tree was not that thick, and the branches started to shake. The roots of this tree seemed to have died. It's probably hollow underneath the tree. The two worked together to dig away the soil around the tree and then pushed down the trunk. Under the entanglement of the roots, there was a hole covered in spider webs, and inside the hole was a woman's feet. This is the place. Zhu Xinru was shoved into the ground with her head facing down, and the peach tree's roots blocked her body. Save me. When he saw the body, Chen Ge's black phone vibrated. He took several steps back and swiped the screen to check the new message. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. The rain from the night sky crawled into his collar, and Chen Ge felt a chill run down his spine. He stood alone at the edge of the forest, staring at the message on the screen. In the Trial Mission tab, there was a new option, Coffin Village. A 3-star trial mission is already very difficult for me, and the third sick hall is also a 3-star scenario. Without Zhongya, with just me and the other ghosts, I'd be dead for sure. The increase in the difficulty to 3-star meant that there might be more than one red specter in the scenario. With the information that Chen Ge had, the only one who could threaten a red specter was another red specter. The trial mission given by the black phone is not just a simple mission. I have to consider the variables and other factors in real life, so I can't be reckless. Chen Ge hesitated and started to think. After all, I have a week to think. Perhaps in a few days, Zhongya will wake up, and then I'll have the confidence to face the danger head-on. He looked at his shadow and shoved the black phone into his pocket. I'll think about it on the 5th night. I, Chen Ge, am not a reckless person. The 3-star trial mission at Coffin Village was a new option for him, but it was only one option. After the incident with Zhu Xinru's sister, Chen Ge felt like the danger of this 3-star mission would not be lower than the 3rd sick hall. The key was that the village at the foot of the mountain was called Linguan Village, but the mission given by the black phone was called Coffin Village. Based on Chen Ge's understanding of the black phone, the real location of this mission was probably the original location of Coffin Village deep inside the mountain. Unlocking this kind of scenario would definitely be thrilling, and it was a very rare haunted house with an abandoned village theme. Once it was unlocked, it would definitely attract the attention of experienced haunted house enthusiasts. To be honest, Chen Ge was tempted. However, from another perspective, Coffin Village was deep inside the mountain. It was uninhabited, and there was not even a phone signal. In that kind of situation, if he ran into something scary, he would not be able to escape. The people in Coffin Village look strange, and every family has a living coffin. How come it feels like there are many monsters hiding in this village? The people who escaped to the Bai family village are perfectly healthy, but their attitude toward the deformed people is hard to understand. They want to kill all of them. Why did these people escape from the depths of the mountain? Was it really because of the plague in Coffin Village? Quote, Chen Ge did not understand, but there was one thing he was sure of. Before he went to Coffin Village, he had to build a good relationship with Zhang Ling. The girl was not as innocent as she appeared. Yin Xiaoxiao and Fan Yu both like me. I feel like I'm good with kids, so it shouldn't be a problem for me to gain Zhang Ling's trust. The branches and leaves of the peach trees rubbed against each other, making a terrifying sound. The old man used the hoe to dig the hole under the peach tree. His movements were very gentle, and there was a trace of guilt on his face. Chen Ge wanted to help, but the old man rejected him. He took off his jacket and placed it on the branch like he was trying to prevent the body from getting wet. Seeing the old man slowly clear away the soil, the woman's body started to tilt. When Chen Ge saw the deformed hands under the woman's arms, he did not feel good. She was born like this, so why did the people around her put the blame on her? He could imagine Zhu Xinru's situation when she was young. No matter how hot the weather was, she had to wrap herself in thick clothes. If someone accidentally discovered her deformity, she would be scolded by the people, and she would have to apologize. She must have loved winter when she was young. After seeing Zhu Xinru's body, the shock was indescribable. Compared to normal people's disgust and distaste, Chen Ge showed sympathy. He had seen many monsters and many people who were treated as monsters, so he could see things from an objective perspective. You were born as a human, so it's not your fault. Chen Ge stood in the gap, blocking the raindrops that fell into the hole. The black phone in his pocket suddenly vibrated again. He took out the phone to look at it, and the black phone said that Zhu Xinru's affection level toward him had increased from unfamiliar to slightly favorable. When I first met Xiaoxiao, I already had a slightly favorable impression of her. Looks like she won't try to ambush me again. It was difficult to leave Linguan village at night. There were no taxis, and the cement roads had only recently been repaired. However, Chen Ge had everything planned out. At 3:15 a.m., the police rushed into the mountain after receiving the call. As the first person to discover the body, Chen Ge requested to follow the police back to the station for investigation. At 5:30 a.m., he and Master Bai were already at Inspector Li's office. Compared to the more reserved and honest Master Bai, Chen Ge was much more relaxed. On the way back, he even took a nap in the police car. Master Bai, just tell me the truth, don't be nervous. Zhujiang's police officers are responsible, fair, and concerned about the people. They won't purposely make things difficult for you. Quote. The door opened, and when Inspector Li walked in, he saw Chen Ge imparting his experience to the old man, and he was amused. This kid knows the police rules better than I do. No matter how I look at it, he looks like our informant. Uncle San Bao. When Chen Ge saw Inspector Li, he stood up immediately. Thank you for the trouble tonight. Speaking of which, it's hard on the police. Master Bai nodded. He was more honest. He had called the police in the middle of the night, but the police had rushed to the mountain at the first notice. They were indeed very responsible. Thank you, officer. It's our duty. Inspector Li told the old man kindly and then walked toward Chen Ge. Zhujiang is so big, can you stop loitering around my area? Why don't you go sightseeing for a few days? Give yourself a break and give us some time to relax. Quote. Inspector Li, you're treating me like an outsider. Don't worry, my body can handle it. Inspector Li looked at Chen Ge, and for some reason, he wanted to beat him up. However, with an outsider around, he resisted the urge. Rubbing his temples, Inspector Li did not want to see Chen Ge anymore. After organizing the statement, he had Da Yong lead Chen Ge away. Da Yong, who had dark circles under his eyes, personally walked Chen Ge to the door. He grabbed his shoulder tightly. Brother, Inspector Li is too blunt. Please don't mind him. If you really don't want to go sightseeing, you can stay at home and rest for a few days. Da Yong's voice was sincere, and it was clear that he was doing this for Chen Ge's own good. Feeling the warmth from the police station, Chen Ge nodded and replied sincerely, "Okay, I'll try my best." Getting into the taxi, Chen Ge returned to New Century Park. The sun had just risen. Facing the rising sun, Chen Ge stopped at the entrance to the haunted house. He looked at the sun and suddenly took out the black phone. "I've already proven that the effect of the lucky draw at noon isn't that good. Everyone says a good day lies in the morning. Now is the time when everything is recovering. If I start the lucky draw now, I might get something different." The sun shone on his face. Chen Ge gripped the phone and stared at the screen. When the needle slowed down, his heart skipped a beat. 100 screams was not a small number. If he won something useless, it would be a huge loss. "I purposely chose to do the lucky draw in the morning, so it shouldn't be a baleful specter this time. In terms of probability, it should be time for me to see the other things on the wheel, right?" Chen Ge had not been so nervous in a long time. Anticipation rose in his heart, and he stared at the needle without taking his eyes off it. It had stopped. Lucky draw complete. Congratulations, specters favored, for winning a rare special item, the drawer that cannot be opened, probability 1%. Quote. When he saw the term, drawer that cannot be opened, Chen Ge sucked in a cold breath. Several terms flashed through his mind. The cursed love letter, the crying tape, the drawer that cannot be opened, these things sound like they belong to the same series. With a glimmer of hope, Chen Ge continued to stare at the phone. "I keep feeling like someone is watching me. He might be hiding in this room, but I've searched all the possible hiding places, but I can't find him. I'm getting more and more afraid. Whenever I work at the table with my back facing the living room, the feeling of being watched will surface. He must be watching me. I'm worried that he might sneak up behind me when my back is facing the living room. To protect myself, I've hidden a knife in the drawer of the study table." One night, the feeling of being watched appeared again. Unable to resist it, I opened the drawer to take out the knife. But when I opened the drawer, I realized that the person was not hiding in the living room. "Congratulations, specters favored. Congratulations, you've won another rare specter. Warning. After winning 5 specters, the title of specters favored will automatically level up." Quote. The morning breeze caressed his face, and the sun was just right. Chen Ge's eyes moved away from the screen and slowly drifted away. Why did I get a drawer? When Chen Ge saw the drawer, he already knew that he was going to get a baleful specter, but the real reason he fell into deep thought was that he had drawn 3 baleful specters in total. And the most important thing was that after drawing 5 baleful specters, the title of specters favored would automatically level up. "I feel like I won't be able to see anything else on the wheel. Speaking of which, if I draw a drawer, how do I use it when I fight the Society of Strange Tales?" Chen Ge felt that he needed to buy a bigger backpack. The probability of winning Zhang Ya's love letter is 3 in 1,000, and the probability of winning this drawer is 10 in 1,000. It's weaker than Zhang Ya, but slightly stronger than Shu Yin. It's also a very rare item. Thinking about it makes me happy. Opening the haunted house door, Chen Ge ran into the props room. All the prizes that he had won would appear inside the wooden box left behind by his parents, like it was something that belonged to the haunted house. However, this time, things were different. Chen Ge searched for a long time, but he could not find the drawer that could not be opened. Could the black phone be referring to the drawer inside the props room? He pulled open the drawer and found an advertisement for a house for rent inside one of the drawers. Zhujiang 3rd Hospital Staff Quarters, Room 304. Apartment size: 2 bedrooms, 1 living room, 1 bathroom. Luxurious new house, new high-end home appliances, new 46-inch LCD color television, large and comfortable sofa, wooden floor. Simmons, ready to move in. Rent, 900 RMB per month, 1/3 deposit. Phone number. The series of exclamation marks on the advertisement gave Chen Ge a headache. 2 bedrooms, 1 living room, not a bad location. I feel like 3,000 a month is more reasonable, so why is it so cheap? The advertisement looked old, like it was from several years ago, but even then, 900 RMB would not have been enough to rent such a big house. There's something wrong with this house, it's probably haunted. He could not find the drawer that could not be opened, but there was an advertisement in his room. Chen Ge had a vague idea of what the black phone was trying to say. I'll have to go find this new friend myself. Chen Ge placed the hammer against the wall and calculated the time. I'll sleep for another hour and a half, and the service starts at 9 p.m. In the afternoon, I'll go to Zhuzhong's children's home to talk to Zhong Ling and give Fan Yu some instructions. After that, I'll go get the drawer. After changing, Chen Ge prepared to feed the white cat. He kept trying the cat food, hoping that it would learn how to find its own food and then eat it on its own. After trying for a long time, he realized that it was easier to feed Xiao Xiao and the pen spirit. I can't train the white cat to find its own food. Should I change my way of thinking and train Xiao Xiao to find the food to feed the white cat? Chen Ge rubbed Xiao Xiao's head. Suddenly, he realized that his employees still had many abilities that he needed to explore. The haunted house opened at 9 p.m., and there were more visitors than before. Director Luo's promotion was on point, but from Chen Ge's perspective, the main reason was that his haunted house was powerful enough. To complement the promotion, New Century Park had put in a lot of effort. People who bought the tickets could enjoy a discount, and people who shared the haunted house's message could enjoy a discount. In the end, New Century Park did not have many tickets left. This caused many people who had visited the one-star scenario to call their friends to experience it again. They wanted to challenge the difficulty. After all, visiting a haunted house alone was a completely different experience from visiting a haunted house with friends or acquaintances. As the popularity of the haunted house grew, the guides for the one-star and two-star scenarios of Chen Ge's haunted house appeared online. The number of people who cleared the two-star scenarios increased, but none of them did it perfectly. So far, the highest record for the two-star scenario, Muyang High School, was set by Western Zhejiang Medical University and a group of non-players. The 12 of them worked together and found 21 name tags in 20 minutes. To Chen Ge's regret, there was finally a group of people who wanted to challenge the 3-star scenario, the third sick hall. However, when they opened the door to the underground hospital and saw the tomb-like mattresses and the scary mannequins, the group chose to give up. There are already visitors who have started to challenge the third sick hall. Looks like I need to prepare for a new scenario. He busied himself until 6:30 p.m. before Chen Ge could finally relax. After Xu Wan got off work, he armed himself to the teeth and left New Century Park with the rental poster. He bought a bunch of snacks and toys to Zhuzhong's children's home. The director thought that he had finally decided to take Fan Yu away, so he personally came out to welcome him. There were only 2 colors on the white paper, red and black. Fan Yu's style had not changed at all. This is the room we stayed in. Your sister was lying there when I saw you. Fan Yu's finger moved across the painting. After passing a few black figures, he stopped on a black window. The nurse looked at Fan Yu's painting, and her face darkened. She had been standing near the window, and according to Fan Yu, the spider-like monster was right above her. Ling Ling, let's go back to the room to play, okay? The nurse squatted down and moved her gaze away from Fan Yu's painting. Rationality told her that the monsters that Fan Yu had drawn were all figments of his imagination, but the more she looked at them, the more uneasy she felt, like there really were monsters around her. No wonder so many psychiatrists end up suffering from mental illness. After interacting with these abnormal patients for so long, you'll slowly develop a sense of identity with them. From the nurse's perspective, the fear and uneasiness were purely psychological effects. She tried to carry the girl to the side, but the girl kept crying and throwing a tantrum. She refused to leave Fan Yu's side. Let me do it, you can't be so rough with a child. Chen Ge placed the snacks and toys on the table and held Zhong Ling's hand lightly. I'm rough. The nurse stood to the side speechlessly. I just feel like it's not good for Zhong Ling's future growth to see these scary paintings, so I want to take her away. I understand, it's not easy to take care of a child. Chen Ge looked mature and confident, and there was an indescribable warmth in his smile. The nurse glanced at him and scoffed. She pretended to look away, but her eyes would occasionally land on Chen Ge. "Zhang Ling, I've met your sister." Chen Ge went straight to the point. He did not treat Zhang Ling like a child. "I went to Linguan village, and I've gotten to the bottom of what happened to you and your sister. After some time, I'll go to Coffin village deep inside the mountain to investigate everything." Hearing the names Linguan village and Coffin village, the little girl suddenly stopped crying. There seemed to be a special emotion in her watery eyes. It looked like surprise, but also like fear. Neither of them spoke again. The room suddenly became quiet, and the nurse at the side was also muttering in her heart. "What is this man doing? Living coffin. Investigate. Why are you role-playing all of a sudden? Even if you want to lie to a child, there should be a limit." Quote. To the nurse's surprise, Zhang Ling, who had been crying earlier, suddenly calmed down. She obediently reached out her small hand to grab Chen Ge's sleeve. "Don't go. Is it dangerous there?" Chen Ge had heard from Master Bai that Zhang Ling was slightly deformed. She should be like her sister, having the blood of that strange village. She might know some secrets. Yes. The girl nodded obediently. "My mother said that there are many people like Big Sister there. They are very bad. Like your sister. What else did your mother say to you?" Quote. "Don't touch the coffin." Zhang Ling's left hand clenched into a fist, and her right hand gripped Chen Ge's sleeve tightly. "Don't go. You won't be able to come back." "Yes, I know." Chen Ge ruffled Zhang Ling's hair and carried her to the chair. Throughout the process, Zhang Ling did not resist. "What are you two talking about?" The nurse was afraid that Chen Ge would say something else, so she carried Zhang Ling away. This time, Zhang Ling did not resist. She was very obedient, but before she left, her eyes kept looking at Chen Ge. "Don't touch the coffin. This information is quite important." Chen Ge closed the door and sat down next to Fan Yu. Fan Yu was drawing the second picture. On the white paper, there was a small black man walking in the middle, and behind him were many red shadows. It looked like a ghost parade. "Fan Yu, are you interested in moving into my haunted house?" Chen Ge opened the bags of snacks and started to munch on them. Putting down the pen, the small Fan Yu looked at Chen Ge and nodded seriously. "After I'm done with my work, I'll bring you over, but you have to promise me a few things." Chen Ge sidled up to Fan Yu and squeezed with him. "I know you don't have any mental illness. The reason you don't fit in is because you have a power that they don't have. In comparison, you're smarter and more mature. I won't find you a psychiatrist or force you to take medicine. I just hope you can do one thing well." Quote. "What is it?" Fan Yu raised his head. "I'll help you get into school and give you a life similar to other children. I don't expect you to be good at your studies, but I hope you can make some friends around your age and walk out of this small world." Chen Ge was speaking from his heart. When he made this decision, he had already planned to pay for Fan Yu's future schooling expenses. He was not someone who liked to flaunt his wealth. Most of the time, he would save if he could. It was not because he was stingy but because he did not think it was necessary. Fan Yu did not say anything. He lowered his head again and picked up the pen to start his third picture. "You can think about it." Chen Ge looked at the scary black and red paintings on the table. He did not force Fan Yu to make a decision. "There's one more thing I need to tell you. Don't keep a straight face. You need to learn to smile, just like me. You see, no matter where I go, I'm welcomed. That's my secret." Quote. Fan Yu, who had been expressionless, could not take it anymore. He shoved the painting back to Chen Ge. He lay on the bed alone and pulled the blanket over his head. "This child." Chen Ge shook his head and looked at the painting in his hand. He had only glanced at it casually, but after that, he could not move his eyes away. There was a little girl drawn in the middle of the white paper, and behind the girl was a giant red spider monster. At first glance, it looked exactly like Fan Yu's earlier painting. However, upon closer inspection, one would notice the difference. There were two crying red figures wrapped around the girl's left and right hands. They appeared to be her parents. "Is Fan Yu giving me a reminder?" Chen Ge put the painting away. He looked at Fan Yu, who had hidden himself under the blanket. Without asking anything else, he grabbed his backpack and left Zhujiang's children's home. This girl is not as simple as she seems. Chen Ge flagged down a taxi and hurried to the location on the advertisement. I'll leave after I take the drawer. I need a good rest tonight. He called the number on the advertisement and realized it was not in service. Since he could not contact the owner, he had to go in person. Third Hospital's family home was located in the old city. There were not many people, and the buildings were not that tall. The Third Hospital's residential building was old and run down. There was not even a guard at the door. He entered the building next to it to take a look and realized that none of the rooms had their room numbers on them. The advertisement only says room 304. How am I supposed to find it? Carrying his backpack, Chen Ge waited at the entrance of the residential area. He wanted to find someone to ask for directions. After waiting for about 10 minutes, a high schooler on an electric scooter entered the residential area. Hello, I would like to ask which building is room 304. Chen Ge asked from afar. He was afraid that he might scare the child. Room 304, that sounds familiar. The high schooler stopped the scooter and pointed into the residential area. It should be inside, but I'm not too sure. If I may ask again, has anything strange happened in this residential area before? Chen Ge tried to make himself look friendly. The residential area opposite the road is also in the old part of the city, but it is obviously livelier than our residential area. Nothing strange has happened. The high schooler looked at Chen Ge. He felt that there was something strange about this person. Avayan, who are you talking to? A middle-aged woman's voice came from the third floor. Chen Ge turned to look and saw a woman in pajamas looking at Chen Ge warily. Then she waved at the high schooler. Let's go home. Oh, okay. The high schooler left on his scooter. Wait a minute. Chen Ge did not want to miss this opportunity. He was only there to take the drawer, and he did not want to make things so complicated. Then, he stood at the bottom of the building and shouted at the middle-aged woman, Big sister, do you know which building room 304 is? He was just asking casually, but after he said that, the few houses in the building that still had their lights on instantly switched them off. Is it that serious? Only the middle-aged woman's house had its lights on in the residential building before Chen Ge. Go inside, the third floor of the first building on the left. The woman's face was pale. She returned to her house and switched off the lights. Don't you think you guys are overreacting? Chen Ge did not leave immediately. He quietly followed behind the students and went upstairs. After parking the scooter, the high school student, who didn't know what had happened, carried his backpack and walked upstairs. Mom, what's for dinner? The high school student was about to open the security door when a middle-aged woman's voice came from inside. Don't touch the door. Stamp your feet before coming in. Quote. Why are you stamping your feet? I just finished my evening self-study. I'm exhausted. Quote. Do whatever I tell you to do. The woman's voice suddenly became louder as if she was very angry. Even Chen Ge, who was hiding on the second floor, was shocked. The high school student stomped his feet unwillingly. Only then did the middle-aged woman open the door. She kept muttering, this child doesn't know any better. I didn't mean to offend you. Bad luck. Go away. After repeating it several times, she finally felt relieved and let the child into the house. Take off all your clothes. I'll wash them for you. I just changed it this morning. If you don't, then don't eat. The security door on the third floor slowly closed. Chen Ge walked out from the stairwell and thought to himself, aren't the people at this residential area making a big deal out of nothing? The chance of drawing the drawer was 1%, and the chance of drawing Shu Yin was 3%. In terms of probability, the drawer was only slightly stronger than Shu Yin. He wasn't even a red specter. Whatever, before it gets dark, I'll get the thing first. He didn't know if it was because of his shout just now, but there were even fewer rooms with lights on in the neighborhood. He found the building that the middle-aged woman mentioned. After entering the building, Chen Ge did not notice anything special. However, the place looked old, like it had been abandoned for a long time. He came to the third floor. The two houses on the left and right did not have a number, but the one on the left had a contact number. Could this be room 304? Chen Ge took out his phone to call the number. After 2 rings, the call was picked up. Hello, "We are from Yi Real Estate Company. How can I help you?" "It's like this. I'm interested in a house at 3rd Hospital's family quarters. I'm currently at the residential area, and if possible, I wish to take a look at the house tonight." Quote, "Please wait for a moment, I'll help you ask the person in charge of the area." After a while, the reply came from the other side of the phone. It gave Chen Ge another number. "He just got off work. I've already told him about your situation, and he's on his way to your place." "Thank you." About 10 minutes later, a man in a black shirt holding a briefcase stopped outside the building. He looked to be in his 30s, and he was very friendly. "What a coincidence, my home is nearby. If you want to change your place, I'm afraid you'll have to wait until tomorrow. Looks like I'm quite fated with this place." Chen Ge chuckled and thought about how to sneak the drawer away without anyone noticing. "How about we go upstairs to take a look?" "Okay." The man was obviously afraid when he looked down the darkened corridor, but he did not show it. He maintained the smile on his face. "Follow me." He took out his phone to illuminate the road and started to introduce the place to Chen Ge. "This area is very accessible. There are hospitals, schools, and libraries. It's not expensive, and there's a lot of room for appreciation." When they reached the 3rd floor, he took out a bunch of keys from his pocket. With his yin-yang vision, Chen Ge could see clearly that each key was labeled with a number. The key that the man planned to use to open the door was labeled 305. "Isn't this room 304? Chen Ge asked directly. Hearing his voice, the man almost dropped the key in his hand. He turned around to laugh dryly at Chen Ge. "This is room 305,304, it's a haunted house." "How could we? I want 304. I don't mind if it's a haunted house as long as I'm satisfied with the price." "Why don't you bring me into 304? Chen Ge said firmly. The man gripped the key to 304, but he did not dare to open the door. After a long time, the man walked to 304 with a sad face. "If I knew you wanted 304, I wouldn't have come here at night." He shoved the key into the lock. 304 is half of 305, but I have to tell you something first. I don't want you to complain about me in the future." "What is it?" Chen Ge focused. He had a feeling that the drawer that he had drawn was not a normal one. The first owner of 304 was a gambler. He owed money to loan sharks, so he mortgaged the house to the bank to repay part of the debt. However, the interest was not enough. In the end, the man had no choice but to jump off the building. Quote, "This is the origin of the haunted house. It would have been fine if it was just a suicide, but the key was that the victim had lost an arm, and it had not been found. No matter who moved into a haunted house, there would be a thorn in their heart. What if they accidentally found a severed arm when they were tidying up the place? That would be a big problem. Bring me in to take a look." Chen Ge's expression was calm, like this was nothing. "Okay." There was a dark patch on the back of the man's shirt that appeared to be soaked in cold sweat. "Actually, this place is not bad. The house across the street is about the same size, but it's 4 times more expensive." Opening the security door, a strange smell wafted out, as if something had gone moldy. The man tried the light in the living room. Probably due to poor contact, he had to press the button several times before the light came on. The bright light chased away the darkness. It filtered through the door and shone down the darkened corridor. Chen Ge followed him into the room. He did not want to do anything else, so he started to look for the drawers. There's a short description of a drawer on the black phone. I believe it's referring to one of the drawers in the bedroom. Before the man could stop him, Chen Ge had already entered the bedroom. He searched through both bedrooms but did not find a work table, only a large armoire. It's different from the description on the phone. Chen Ge walked out from the bedroom and looked at the man with suspicion. "Brother, are you sure this is room 304? The key is labeled with a serial number, so it can't be wrong." The man showed Chen Ge his key. There was no work table in the bedroom. Chen Ge looked at the drawers of various sizes and frowned. "I won't be able to sift through them one by one. Do I really have to stay here for the night? What do you think of this room? We can discuss the price." The man was afraid. He stood at the door and did not come in. "I like this place very much. Do you think you can let me stay here for a night? Chen Ge reached into his backpack to search for something. A night? We don't have that kind of service. If you're not satisfied, we can try the room next door. Quote. No need, I'll take this one. Before the man could finish, he was interrupted by Chen Ge. He took out his ID and 500 yuan from his backpack. 500 yuan for one night. This is my ID. I will not damage anything inside the house. If nothing strange happens tonight, I will be taking this house. The man had never received such a customer before. No, the company has requirements. You can't mess around. Are there many people who want a haunted house where people have died before? If you miss me, who knows how long this house of yours will remain empty. Quote. Chen Ge talked for a long time and finally convinced the man to get the key to the room. There are surveillance cameras around the area. If you run into anything scary, you can run out and ask for help. I'll come to check in at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. You'd better come earlier tomorrow. I still have things to do during the day. Chen Ge sent the man away. Looking at the key in his hand, he felt a little awkward. The key itself was worn out, but the sticker was new. That's weird, he was thinking when a crisp sound came from the kitchen. Taking out the hammer from his backpack, Chen Ge walked to the kitchen door and realized that the cleaver had fallen into the basin. Where was this cleaver originally placed? He picked up the cleaver and turned on the stove. He grabbed the wooden handle and placed it on the fire. Ghosts should be afraid of open fire, right? The bright cleaver was charred. When Chen Ge felt that it was about time, he tossed the cleaver back into the basin. There are so many drawers in the house. There has to be one that I'm looking for. I'll take my time. He switched on all the lights and started to look for the drawer that he could not open. The night was dark, and the residential area was eerily quiet, like no one was staying in any of the rooms. Without realizing it, 1 hour had passed. Chen Ge sat in the living room and looked at the drawers that littered the floor. He opened all the drawers and looked through them. I can open all the drawers in this room, and I didn't find anything strange. Leaning against the sofa, Chen Ge felt sleepy. He had not had a good rest for a long time. This is different from the previous lucky draws. Is this ghost very powerful? Or does she have some kind of special power? Quote. He placed the recorder next to him and hugged the hammer as he lay down on the sofa. He was about to close his eyes to rest when his phone suddenly vibrated. An agent. Why are they looking for me? Quote. Chen Ge answered the call, and it was still the woman's voice. Hello, I'm sorry, I just received the notification that the regional manager responsible for 3rd Hospital's family quarters got into a car accident on his way to find you. He temporarily cannot help you with the business, but if you really want that house, please come back in 3 days. Quote. A car accident. Chen Ge's drowsiness disappeared instantly. If the agent got into a car accident, then who was the person who accompanied me to look at the house earlier? Was it a baleful ghost? Or was it the spirit of the agent? No matter which one was correct, the result was the same. He had run into a ghost. Can you tell me the appearance of the agent who got into the car accident? I'm sorry, I'm only responsible for the phone call. I don't know the exact number of agents in Zhujiang City. You don't know the workers at your own company. Chen Ge looked at the key in his hand. It was left behind by the ghost. The more he looked at it, the more uncomfortable he felt. The sticker was new, but the key looked old. He slowly peeled off the sticker, and underneath it were 3 crooked numbers, 305. The agent tried his best to recommend me to be the number 304. The house he wanted me to buy was the real haunted house. Quote. Chen Ge did not play by the script, and the agent did not expect this. A normal person would avoid haunted houses, but the customer he met today did the exact opposite and insisted on entering the haunted house. Hello, how can I help you? The woman on the other end of the phone was polite. Your agent should have the information about the house, right? Can you help me investigate the previous owner of room 304? I know this is a haunted house, and I'm interested in it because it's cheap. I hope you can stop hiding things from me. Quote. Okay. The agent answered readily. Soon, he gave Chen Ge his reply. 3 tenants of room 304 have had accidents. The 3rd tenant was a gambler, and his hand was chopped off by someone who wanted to pay off his debt. He committed suicide by jumping off the building. The second tenant was an English teacher, and he mysteriously disappeared from his home. The first tenant, Chen Ge, was focusing on the agent's words when there was a knock on the living room door. Chen Ge hung up and moved to the door. He held the hammer in his right hand and pushed the door open a gap with his left hand. The light fell on the dark corridor, and the inside and outside of the room appeared to be two different worlds. "Who are you looking for?" A tall and thin man stood at the door. His eyes were sunken, and his skin was rough. He looked very haggard. "I'm here to give you a warning." The man kept his distance from the door. "Do not spend the night here. Even if you insist on staying at the residential area, do not stay on this floor." "Why?" Chen Ge wanted to hear what this strange man had to say. "It doesn't matter, just don't spend the night here." He coughed twice and reached out his right hand to cover his mouth like he was afraid of being overheard. Through his teeth, he said, "Someone has disappeared from one of the rooms on this floor." Disappeared from one of the rooms. Chen Ge was reminded of the words that the agent had said. The second tenant was an English teacher, and he had mysteriously disappeared from his home. "Hurry up and leave, or else it'll be too late." The man seemed to have come to give Chen Ge a warning out of kindness. "How did you know all this? Are you a tenant here as well?" Half of Chen Ge's body was exposed outside the door, and the hand that held the hammer was hidden inside the door. "Yes, I live upstairs, and I heard you talking to yourself downstairs." The tall and thin man was wearing a tattered jacket, and his hands were shoved into his pockets. He did not seem to be in good health, and he walked very slowly. "I thought you would leave after coming in to take a look, but who knew you would run into the house? From the looks of it, you were planning to spend the night here, so I came to warn you." "I'm talking to myself." Chen Ge swallowed. If it was someone else, they would have started to panic. "Has something like this happened to your building before?" "Yes, but it was always during the day. This is the first time I've seen someone like you come at night." "What happened to those people?" "Some went mad, and some became tenants here. However, those tenants ended up worse than being mad. They either committed suicide or disappeared. Some went mad, some disappeared. Different people have different fates." Quote. "No." The man reached out his right hand and gestured for Chen Ge to come closer, but Chen Ge did not do as he asked. The tall, thin man had no choice but to take a step forward and whispered, "I heard that the people who went crazy all came through a legal intermediary, and the people who became tenants and got into trouble in the end all called the ghost intermediary." Ghost intermediary. Chen Ge recalled the girl's unchanging but polite voice on the other end of the phone. "What's a ghost intermediary?" "We have to start from a few years ago. This room 304 next to yours was the scene of a murder. I believe the victim was a real estate agent, but the killer is still missing." The man took a deep breath and looked upstairs. Other than Chen Ge's room, the rest of the room was dark. No one knew what he was looking at. After confirming again and again, the tall, thin man said carefully, "Ever since his death, this room has been left empty, but strange things keep happening. People often come here to look at the rooms. When asked where they saw the rental information, they would give different answers. Some said they saw it online, some said they saw it from advertisements, and some even forgot where they saw it themselves." Quote. The man paused and turned to look at Chen Ge with confusion. "By the way, where did you get the information? And, how did you get the key to the room opposite room 304? Quote. "The process is quite complicated." Chen Ge looked at the real room 304. "I saw the number left on the door and called it. Then a man in his 30s wearing a black shirt gave me the key." 30-something, black shirt. The tall and thin man repeated the name. Suddenly, his eyes widened. "He's back." Quote. After saying this, the lanky man strode upstairs as if he had been frightened. "Hey, explain yourself." The man was too suspicious, and Chen Ge did not plan to let him go. He grabbed the hammer and chased after him. It was unclear whether the man saw the hammer in Chen Ge's hand or not, but he kept running up the stairs. An old building like Third Hospital's family quarters was only 8 stories tall. When he reached the 5th floor, Chen Ge's phone started to vibrate. Stop. Chen Ge did not lose focus. He chased the man all the way to the 6th floor and finally caught up to the man. Why are you running? The dead man was in his 30s. The white shirt he was wearing before he died was soaked in blood, and it turned a reddish black. The man was agitated. When he saw the hammer in Chen Ge's hand, he became even more agitated. It's just as I thought. Looks like I just ran into the first tenant. Now I need to consider whether there's a problem with the agent or not. Chen Ge's phone was still vibrating, and he took it out. At that moment, the man leaned against the railing like he did not want to get any closer. The screen flickered, and the agent sent him the information about the room. The first one recorded the information about the third tenant, the gambler. Chen Ge swiped to the bottom of the screen, and the agent very kindly sent him a picture of the gambler when he was alive. Listless, sunken eyes, thin body. The moment he saw the face, Chen Ge's body reacted faster than his mind. He raised the hammer and smashed it at the railing. When he saw the man, Chen Ge had this suspicion in his heart. No matter what the man did, he only used his right hand, and his left hand was always in his pocket. At the time, Chen Ge had wondered if the man did not even have a left hand. Bang! The hammer bent the railing. The man dodged to the side, and his body started to twist unnaturally. He did not fight Chen Ge head-on. With a strange smile on his face, he jumped over the railing and disappeared from the 3rd floor. He probably ran into room 304. When Chen Ge left the room, he did not bring the recorder with him. To avoid any accidents, he retreated to the 3rd floor. Returning to room 305, he switched on the recorder, and Chen Ge finally felt at ease. This building sure is interesting. Everyone makes it sound like they are telling the truth, but in reality, they all have ulterior motives. I can't trust anyone here. Chen Ge thought back to his conversation with the man. The gambler kept trying to persuade me to leave. I wonder if he's trying to convince me to leave or he really doesn't want to see me. After packing up everything, Chen Ge took out his phone and looked at the screen. The agent only told me about the gambler and did not reveal the information about the previous 2 tenants. Did she do this on purpose? How are these people related to the drawer? Chen Ge shook his head. This time, the specter that I've drawn is quite unique. Quote, he called the agent. He held the hammer with one hand and held the phone to his ear with the other. Hello, I've sent you the information. Is there anything else you need? The agent's voice was still polite, and it was almost midnight. Yes, I have one last question to ask. Go ahead. Chen Ge's straightforwardness caught the woman off guard. She did not expect someone to ask a question like that. Are you a ghost? Chen Ge repeated. His tone was calm and natural. It sounded like he was asking if she had eaten that day. The woman's breathing hastened, and she felt strangely agitated. Static started to appear on the phone, and the signal suddenly dropped. If you don't answer, then I'll take it as a yes. Chen Ge leaned against the door with the phone in his hand. Those who did not know better would think he was talking to an old friend. The woman on the other side of the phone wanted to say something, but she felt that it was inappropriate. She could not understand why the other party would ask such a difficult question. If a normal person realized they were talking to a ghost, shouldn't their first reaction be to throw the phone aside and scream? Even if they did not want to throw the phone away, they should have hung up the phone with shaking hands. Why aren't you afraid and even actively asking me? The woman on the other side of the phone whispered a few words, and the call was suddenly cut off. Hearing the busy tone from the other end, Chen Ge was not surprised. Looks like she's angry because I've seen through her. He pocketed the phone and stood in the dark corridor. 3 tenants of room 304 have either disappeared or been killed. I've just met the gambler and the salesman. The woman playing the role of the middleman is most likely the second tenant's English teacher. It was not even midnight, and Chen Ge had already run into 3 different ghosts. He had a feeling this was just the beginning. I wonder what kind of strange things I'll run into after midnight. Looks like I'll need to change my way of thinking. Chen Ge carried his backpack and walked to the door of room 304. Instead of being led around by the nose, I should be more direct. The light from room 305 cast its light down the dark corridor. Of the entire third hospital, only Chen Ge's room had the light on. Most of the tenants are concentrated in the first two buildings, and this last building appears to be a taboo for them. Chen Ge grabbed the lock of room 304 and shook it twice. The rust peeled off, and the door frame shivered. Perhaps it was because there had been many murders, and the police had used force to break the lock more than once. There were obvious marks on the edge of the lock. Smashing the door is too violent. It's not something I like to do, but there's no better way now. After confirming the location, Chen Ge raised the hammer. Bang, bang, quote. After a few consecutive bangs, the lock was smashed crooked. Chen Ge stuffed the handle of the hammer into the gap of the door and forced the door open. With such a big commotion, no one in the residential area dares to make a sound. Looks like these ghosts have been playing a lot of pranks on them. Entering room 304 and turning on the lights in the living room, Chen Ge found the room very strange. The sofa, dining table, and other furniture were all normal, but anything that could be opened, such as drawers and wardrobes, were all sealed with wooden boards. This is more like a haunted house. Perhaps due to the aging wiring, the lights in the living room flickered, and it made Chen Ge feel uneasy. Walking to the middle of the room, Chen Ge touched the back of the sofa. The room had been vacant for a long time, but it was spotless, like someone had been cleaning it all this time. 2 bedrooms and 1 living room. The layout is similar to room 305, but the furniture is much older. Chen Ge walked to the shoe cabinet. Looking at the wooden boards that were nailed to it, he was curious. Why are all the cabinets and drawers sealed? Is there something scary hidden inside? Quote. Waving the hammer, Chen Ge smashed open the shoe cabinet. There were a few pairs of shoes inside, but other than that, there was nothing else. Left behind by the deceased, leather shoes, high heels, and slippers were stuffed inside the cabinet. Chen Ge tipped the cabinet to pour out the shoes, and he was shocked to find that all the shoes had been pierced and slashed by a fruit knife. Knife marks. Was it done by the tenants? Quote. Chen Ge could not find any clues from the shoes, so he turned to look elsewhere. The living room was not big, and opposite the sofa was a television cabinet. Interestingly enough, the drawers under the television cabinet were also nailed shut by wooden boards. The item that I've drawn is called the drawer that cannot be opened. Does that mean that if I try all the drawers, I can just take away the one that I cannot open? No one could give Chen Ge an answer, so he had to try it himself. The television cabinet was low, and Chen Ge used a lot of effort to remove the wooden boards from it. Crash. Pulling open the drawer, many videotapes inside black boxes fell out. Videotapes. These are from so many years ago. He picked out one that looked newer and shoved it into the VCR under the television. He plugged it in and pressed the switch. The moment the television came on, a shadow flashed across the screen. Was there a shadow in the video? Or did something just run past me? Chen Ge kept his guard up. He knew very well that the gambler who had lost his hand had escaped into room 304, so he was probably hiding somewhere inside the room. The video was from many years ago, and the quality was poor. The television appeared to be broken as well, and white bars and static kept flashing on the screen. It was a miracle that something from so many years ago could still be used. Chen Ge did not pay attention to those details as he squatted before the television to watch it. The video recorded the scene inside this room. The image was completely still, and the person who recorded the video had probably fixed the camera somewhere. What is he recording? 1 minute later, the image still did not change. Chen Ge was getting impatient. He found the remote and tried to fast forward. The first half of the video was normal, but the second half was weird. The second half of the video was shot at night, and the scene was similar to what Chen Ge was seeing. The lights in the room were on, and the camera was placed on the television. The lens was aimed at the living room, and it was just enough to capture the living room and the rooms next to it. The whole drawer is filled with videotapes, which means that the person who recorded this must have been recording this room for a long time. Chen Ge had a vague understanding of the owner's intention. He had probably experienced a supernatural event, and to prove his theory, he wanted to record everything with the camera. Curiosity kills the cat. When he realized something was wrong with this room, he didn't move away but stayed. Chen Ge hugged the recorder in his arms and continued to watch the video. The quality was poor. When Chen Ge fast-forwarded to the end of the video, the unchanging image suddenly changed. The camera was placed on the television, and from this angle, it was the image that Chen Ge saw when he turned around. The lights flickered on and off. Squatting before the television, Chen Ge slowly had the illusion that he was not watching a video but was looking at the living room behind him. The lights in the living room were still flickering, and the frequency of the flickering in real life seemed to overlap with the frequency of the flickering in the video. When the lights in the television dimmed, the lights in the living room dimmed as well. Soon, they both lit up at the same time. Is the video affecting reality? No, it's the work of a ghost. Chen Ge did not turn around. His eyes were glued to the bedroom door that was slowly opening in the video. Every time the lights dimmed, the bedroom door would open several centimeters. When the lights flickered for the 7th time, Chen Ge saw a strand of black hair poking out from behind the bedroom door. The hair is very long, so it should be a woman. Could she be the second homeowner? Chen Ge still did not turn around. He gripped the hammer in his hands tightly. When the lights dimmed for the 8th time, the strand of hair was blown by the wind, and half of the face started to poke out. Chen Ge stared at the face in the video and counted in his heart. The time of dimming seemed to be fixed. The face leaned out from the bedroom door, and just as it was about to poke out, the light in the video and in real life suddenly went out at the same time. Shu Yin. Chen Ge reacted in 1 second. He swung the hammer with both hands and swung it behind him. The hammer landed on the sofa, and Chen Ge's eyes scanned the room. The room was dark, and something seemed to be moving. Several seconds later, the lights came back on. In reality, nothing had changed in the living room, but the bedroom door had opened, just like in the video. Chen Ge turned to look at the television. The screen was filled with black and white static, and the video ended. Kicking the sofa away, Chen Ge looked at the slowly spinning tape. When Shu Yin's voice came, he slowly walked toward the bedroom. The wooden door was half open, and there were a few strands of the woman's hair on the ground. Chen Ge picked them up and rubbed them with his hands. If you continue to wear down my patience like this, be careful that I don't burn all of you. Walking forward, he saw that the bedroom was in a mess. There were all kinds of junk on the floor, and there were several rows of wooden boards nailed to the closet. The bedside table was also sealed shut. Every piece of furniture that can be opened has been boarded up. What is hidden inside these pieces of furniture? Which tenant did those videos belong to? Quote. Looking at the furniture that was sealed up by wooden boards, a thought appeared in Chen Ge's mind. Did the tenants who recorded these videos find the reason for the haunting through the videos? Is that why you sealed the drawers and wardrobe? Quote. The more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. The tenant must have seen a ghost crawl out from a drawer or a piece of furniture. To prevent this from happening again, he sealed up all the furniture in the house that could be opened. Chen Ge stopped in the middle of the bedroom, and he thought of another problem. Including the female ghost, I've run into 3 ghosts in total, and all 3 of them can enter and leave this room freely. This means that the trick of sealing up the furniture was not effective. In other words, the owner might have left one of the drawers unsealed, and this unsealed drawer is probably the one I'm looking for. He took Xiao Xiao out from his pocket and placed her at the bedroom door as a warning. He swung the hammer to open the drawers in the closet. All the drawers and closet are sealed, so the drawer I'm looking for is in the other bedroom. Xiao Xiao's body leaned forward like she was trying to crawl out. When Chen Ge picked her up, he realized that her finger was pointing toward the door. Initially, he did not think too much about it, but when he passed the living room door, he glanced out the door. The doors to room 304 and room 305 were not closed, and standing between the 2 rooms was an old lady with a hunched back. She did not speak and faced room 304. The wrinkles on her face were like the skin of a bean, and she looked quite scary. His body froze at the door, and Chen Ge subconsciously placed the hammer behind him. Granny, are you the tenant here? Chen Ge's voice was as calm as ever, and it did not raise much of a ripple. The old lady did not answer Chen Ge. In fact, her eyes were not even on Chen Ge but on the drawers that Chen Ge had pried open. It's already so dark. If there's nothing else, why don't you go home? An old lady standing outside his door in the middle of the night was definitely not normal. Actually, if it was a young man standing outside his door, Chen Ge would have smashed him with the hammer regardless of whether he was a human or a ghost. Were you the one who opened the drawers? The old lady's voice was hoarse, and it sounded like rough bark rubbing against each other. Yes, I plan to buy these 2 rooms, and I'm currently arranging the furniture. Chen Ge stared at the old lady. If she made any move, he would not hesitate to call for Shu Yin. You'd better leave now. Find a half-immortal to take a look at you. Perhaps you're already haunted by her. The old lady walked down the stairs halfway. Her footsteps were slow, and her gait was wobbly. Haunted by her? Why don't you explain yourself before you leave? Quote. Chen Ge chased her to the stairs, and the old lady pointed at room 304. There used to be an English teacher living there. She was very pretty, and she had a sweet voice. I believe it was a crime of passion. She was separated and placed inside the drawers, and she was only discovered after a long time. She was very resentful, and anyone who entered this room would be haunted by her. Quote. English teacher. Chen Ge felt like the old lady was telling the truth, so he was not lying. However, the problem was, a strange old lady standing at the door in the middle of the night was a very strange thing in itself. Granny, why are you telling me these things? Chen Ge stood under the light and did not follow the old lady down the stairs. He continued to ask, can you tell me how you know about these things? I live in the building next door, and the murdered English teacher is my daughter. The old lady's face darkened, and even her voice sounded creepy. You're the 3rd victim. She has done many things, and I do not wish to see her continue like this. Let's go. We mustn't stay in those 2 rooms. The old lady walked down the stairs alone. She walked very slowly like she was waiting for Chen Ge to follow her. But I still have a question. Chen Ge was about to ask the old lady who her daughter had harmed when he received a message on his phone. It was from the woman from the middleman. Do you know why every house in that residential area is so quiet at night and turns off the lights so early? There is an old lady's ghost in that residential area, and she will often follow the light and sound to find her way home. Quote. After reading the message, Chen Ge raised his head again. The old lady stopped at the corner of the stairs, and the wrinkles on her face squeezed together. Her voice was getting weirder and weirder. Let's go. Follow me down the stairs. That room is very dangerous. His eyes moved between the old lady and the 2 rooms. Chen Ge suddenly tossed the backpack to the side, and the speculation in his mind slowly formed. I can't trust any of them, and there is no need to. Then, Shu Yin slowly appeared behind Chen Ge, and the man and ghost charged at the old lady at the same time. The wrinkles on her face squeezed together. When the old lady saw Chen Ge leave room 304 and enter a place where the light could not reach, her dry lips curled into a smile. However, before she could smile, before Chen Ge could, a man in a half-red shirt suddenly charged out. So painful. Blood leaked out from the wounds all over his body. The man crawled on all 4s like a beast, and his expression was hysterical. The old lady's smile froze on her face. Her body moved at a speed that did not match her age. She morphed into a black shadow and ran down the stairs. Didn't you ask me to come with you? The hammer slammed heavily on the spot where the old lady's ghost had been standing, and the sound echoed through the whole building. Today, none of you will escape. Shu Yin and Chen Ge chased after the old lady. The staircase was filled with footsteps, and the stairs seemed endless. This was the first time the old lady realized how long the staircase was. This was probably the scariest night she had ever had. The exit of the staircase was right before her eyes. The shadow ran like her life depended on it. She was just a normal ghost, so when she saw Shu Yin in a half-red shirt, she was spooked. Stop right there, Chen Ge shouted from behind. Shu Yin was only slightly faster than the shadow. Just as the shadow was about to escape the staircase, he grabbed one of the shadow's arms. The shadow's whole body shook. Without hesitation, she cut off the arm and ran out of the building without looking back, disappearing into the darkness. Looks like I need to train my body in the future. I'm too slow. Chen Ge sighed with regret. When he turned to look at Shu Yin, he realized that the broken arm of the shadow had disappeared, and the bloodstains on Shu Yin's body seemed to have increased. If Shu Yin can become a red specter, that's not bad. Chen Ge looked at the dark residential area. Since I've run into him, I can't just sit back and do nothing. After I find the drawer, I'll go help the old man end his obsession. After calling Shu Yin, Chen Ge returned to the third floor and called the intermediary again. The other party did not pick up, so he sent a few more messages to the other party, asking if the other party was there. He wanted to thank the other party in person for the reminder. Why didn't you answer my calls? Chen Ge walked into room 304 with the phone in his left hand and the hammer in his right. I've checked the living room and the bedroom by the door. The drawer should be in the last room. These ghosts are trying to stop me, as if they're afraid that I'll enter that place. Quote. The last room was locked, but to Chen Ge, it was just a matter of a hammer strike. The bedroom door is locked from the inside. The gambler who lost his hand is hiding inside. Breaking down the door, and after half the night, Chen Ge finally entered the last room. The bedroom was small. The large bookcase and work table took up half of the space, and the remaining half was taken up by a rusted small fridge and a tattered mat. The edges of the mat are worn down. Looks like the owner uses this mat often. Isn't there a bed outside? Why does he insist on staying in this room? Is he afraid of ghosts? Quote. The atmosphere inside the room was completely different from outside. There was nothing out of place, and the drawers and dresser were not nailed shut by the door. The work table and dresser are clean like they've been cleaned every day. Chen Ge looked at the neat bookcase and miscellaneous items, and a strange thought appeared in his mind. It feels like a ghost is helping to clean the place. Are the ghosts in this room obsessed with cleanliness? He opened the bookcase, and it was filled with books related to comic drawing. The Art of Drawing a Popular Comic, How to Draw a Popular World, Anatomy of the Human Body. These books don't match the previous tenants. Could it be that there was a fourth tenant? Chen Ge replaced the book and found a pile of useless manuscripts under the cupboard. The strange thing was, the scraps had been rubbed, and some had been torn, but they had been pieced back together and pasted back together with tape. All the scraps have been preserved. Chen Ge picked up the stack of scraps and glanced at them. The characters on the white paper were strange. It was clear that the artist was trying his best to make the characters cuter and more popular, but the actual effect was horrible. The artist was definitely not a professional artist. Most of the characters he drew had facial paralysis, and a few of them had a more lifeless gaze, and their expressions were rather scary. It was obvious that the artist was working hard to draw a manga that would be popular, but his sense of beauty seemed to be naturally different from the general public. Even when he was copying someone else's work, he was able to draw a popular and beautiful girl like a female corpse. To be able to draw so scary every single one of his drawings is a kind of talent. Chen Ge put down the scraps and found a thin yellow notebook in the corner of the bookcase. He flipped through it. The notebook recorded the weekly expenses and the payment that the owner received from his drawings. Reading the content of the book, the expression on Chen Ge's face turned strange. Technically, the artist was also a tenant of room 304, but he was sharing the room with someone else, so he only rented this small bedroom. He lived a hard life, and he was a comic lover. However, after flipping through the notebook, the artist had lived in this small room for 3 years, and his income from drawing was only 1,200 RMB. Of that, 1,000 RMB came from his only fan, the landlady, and the remaining 200 RMB came from him drawing for people under the bridge. In the end, he drew people like they were dead, and he was chased for a long time. After the police came to mediate, the person who beat him up compensated him. He was purely relying on his savings from his previous job. He kept his living expenses within 400 RMB every month. His belief was that as long as he did not die, he would eventually make a name for himself. That was a good saying, but the cruel thing was, until his death, his comics were not accepted by the public. At the back of the notebook was a folded newspaper. Hidden between the pages was a story about a middle-aged man who saved a drowning child and drowned himself in the process. The article did not even mention the middle-aged man's name. This is different from what the ghosts said. Just how many tenants has room 304 had? Chen Ge replaced all the scraps and walked to the desk. It's facing away from the living room. This should be the desk that the black phone mentioned. Many drawing tools were arranged neatly on the table like they were waiting for their owner to return to use them. Chen Ge's eyes slowly moved. He looked at the 3 drawers next to the table. He reached out to pull open the first drawer. It was filled with paints and brushes. This shouldn't be it. Chen Ge opened the second drawer, and it was filled with the rejection letters that the middle-aged man had received. They filled the whole drawer, and the artist had kept all of them.